My name is Malia Berger, and this is my presentation on STEM education. I'm currently a first-year teacher at Clearview Elementary School in Red Lion Area School District. I am a fourth grade writing and science teacher. I'm interested in STEM. I am a first-year teacher, so I'm trying to integrate STEM not only into my science lessons, but also into my writing. I know in the foreseeable future, I might be teaching a subject other than the two that I'm currently teaching, so I'm also trying to find ways that I can integrate STEM into any subject. I've always wanted to make lessons more relatable to students and introduce more hands-on learning into my classroom. My philosophy on education is making it as if it's real-world concepts for my students so that they know how they're going to be able to use it in their everyday life. My school district has only just started talking about STEM in some of our professional development, so I'm trying to get ahead and be able to see what's going to be coming up. My current hobby and interest would include bowling, mini golfing, traveling, spending time with family and friends, and playing strategy board games. My definition of STEM is a learning approach that integrates science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to solve real-world problems. I conducted a STEM lab recently in my classroom on density. We went over the states of matter, and we focused on one of the characteristics, which would be density. And I had a video that I introduced to my students where they were talking about a way to measure density would be to place an object in water. I also wanted them to understand, though, that every single liquid also has a density. So in my lab, I had them conduct different trials, and they were able to determine if the object was going to sink or float in the different types of liquids. And then they also made a prediction before they were able to conduct the trial. And some of the items that I used was a cotton ball, a pasta noodle, pencil, glue stick, water, salt water, and canola oil. My science practices that I used would be asking questions. I asked them what items will sink or float in different liquids. They planned and carried out the investigation so that they tested them and then they recorded the results on a piece of paper and they evaluated their results based upon their prediction. Also, I had them construct explanations and design solutions, so I need to determine why some items were actually floating in one liquid and why they might be sinking in another, and vice versa, and what caused this to actually happen. Then I also had a couple of arguments at the, during, where I had a cotton ball, and it became a little bit of difficult for some of the students to be able to determine if it was sinking or floating, because if you ever had a cotton ball go in some of these types of liquid, you will determine that the cotton ball will float, but over time it will sink. So they determined that it happened because it was absorbent. So that means this wasn't a very effective way for them to be able to test this object. So they realized that this would not be effective for every single object for them to be able to do, but this became a problem because they weren't sure which evidence to keep and which ones to ignore. Also, my engineering practices was pretty much the same as the science because when we did our reading, they were pretty much the same when it came to their practices. My mathematics practice would have been making sense of problems and persevering by solving them. So some of my students realized that their prediction was not the same as their result. So they had to figure out what happened and make sure that their results made sense. And then also the same argument as stated before. The importance of STEM education would be establishing relevance, challenging our students, and emphasizing 21st century skills with critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, teamwork, collaboration, and communication. Helping students realize what technology is available and how to use it. It also helps students realize how people use it to help advance our society in science and engineering. It also helps balance textbooks with hands-on learning and creating connections to real-world situations in the classroom. Also, math creates a wiring in your brain to help with problem-solving strategies, even if we don't use the math. It also will help with that wiring. Companies also need employees versed in STEM to help create new innovative ideas to help their company grow. STEM education is about moving forward, solving problems, thinking outside the box, and pushing innovations to the next level. My goals for the course would be to learn how and when to incorporate more hands-on learning into the classroom. Also to determine how I can incorporate this type of learning not only in science, but also in writing. These are my resources that I used from some of the different texts that we were able to read upon. And my favorite cartoon character is Angelica from the Rugrats. Thank you for listening.